For me, I just want all the states to pull their heads out of their rear ends and just sort of accept licenses or laws of other states. Like, you can carry here as you carry in your own home state. That would be cool.
Welcome to Gun Owners of America's State of the Second podcast. I'm Kailey.
I'm John, and today in TGC News, we have Jon Patton.
Hi, I'm here.
What's up, brother? How you doing today?
I am feeling great. I'm very excited to be here. I don't get to see you guys ever, so this is how we all hang out these days. We have each other on podcasts, and that's how we talk.
That, you know what? That is true.
It's very
true. We all hang out through podcasts.
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and start off for the people who may not know who you are, which is very few and far in between. Who you are, the origins of TGC. Just go ahead, go for it.
Oh boy. Well, it was a dark and stormy night in 1984. And I don't know if that's actually true. The Gun Collective is coming up on, we've been around for 9 years. I make videos about guns and I shout on the internet quite often. If you don't know what I do, the primary function is gun news, whether that's some Second Amendment related stuff, but primarily gun industry news, new products, etc. I am usually sarcastic, usually saying something mean, and I try to make people laugh quite often. And then I do a bunch of other stuff. We do reviews and other things. So I think that's like the shortest version of it. I don't want to waste your entire show talking about all the nonsense I've been doing for the last 9 years.
Yes, but it's been your humor comes across very great.
Thank you, John.
I watch almost every episode of TGC only because not only are you a friend, but also because it is great informative news on what is new in the industry for those who are not in the know.
The checks in the mail.
All the new products.
Thanks for that promo.
Oh, you're welcome. But it's great because for a very long time you have been the only gun news spot for a lot of people, where you come in and see the new product launches and see what's cool, and you just tell it like it is. You tell them, like, this is dumb. Like, why is there a Cybertruck gun? Who knows why, but it's there.
Yeah, here it is. This thing that nobody asked for exists, and it costs a fortune usually. The prices on guns are freaking absurd these days. But yeah, I think that's one of the things people have come to appreciate about me and TGC News is that you can get the news, and you will also get what I believe is the perspective of a normal gun guy, at least most of the time.
Yeah, you're known for some pretty hot takes on things. I think that gives you a lot of credibility for your viewers. Has there ever been a time where you have given a hot take and then you've been proven wrong by when you've actually gotten to like shoot the gun or gotten to an event and like seen something in action? Or is your gut like 99.95% accurate?
I would say I'm 98% accurate. 98. Because I got it wrong with, I think it was the Equalizer. I had put out a review on that and I crapped all over the gun, and I really didn't like it because I thought it was supposed to replace the shield. And I had the perspective, I came at it from the wrong angle. And then we actually released a second video, follow-up video saying, look, I was wrong. Here's why it's cool. And yeah, that has happened, but more often than not, I'm pretty dialed in, thankfully. Not everybody agrees with me. I'm not saying everybody agrees with me, but usually I try to be as well reasoned in my approach as possible. Even like I had one of the, I won't name the company, but I had one of the most high-end, most expensive gun companies out there reach out and say thank you for covering their guns, even though I regularly talk about how they're overpriced. That should tell you something.
Yeah. And I think that's why you have such a loyal follower base and people who love to watch either your full episodes or your 60-second that those nice little things that really, I think, help people who don't have a lot of time be able to digest new gun content and know what's going on in the Second Amendment community.
Well, I try. That's the goal, is to make sure that I'm doing my job. The thing I set out to do is to to inform people, and I think we're doing an okay job of that. And we could always do better, but I'm trying to make sure that we stay consistent and bring people the news they actually care about.
Yeah, and you've been doing this, and I'm not going to date you. You've been doing it for a long time, 9 years, like you said.
I've been doing it. I've been doing YouTube for like 13. Yeah. 13. Started in 2011, but the TGC has existed for 9.
So, doing this for this long, what has been your highlight moments of, I was at a show or I was at an event and somebody said something to me or somebody stopped me? It was like, thank you.
I don't know that there's one particular event or like thing that happened that made me go like, wow, this is the thing that I was seeking or the validation I was after. It's more been like this collective, tongue-in-cheek thing. I've had the fortunate circumstance of having a bunch of people over time see me or hear my voice. More often than not, if I get recognized, it's my voice. And they come over and they say thank you, and they watch all the time. Sometimes the wives chime in because it's, largely guys in the audience. And they'll, oh, I know your voice. I know that guy. I hear you shouting on my husband's phone all the time. I think the first time it ever happened, which was a really wild experience, is I was at Cabela's like an hour from where I live. And a guy comes across the aisle and he's like, hey, are you that news guy on YouTube for guns? And I said, sure. Yeah, I guess that's me. And that was, I want to say that was like the first year, which let me know like, hey, we're doing something right. We're doing something right. And that has continued. Thankfully, people seem to care. Thankfully, when we go to events, we get the opportunity to meet all the people that listen and watch and all that sort of stuff. It's great.
Oh, it's great. So we're going to start off with our segment called Rapid Fire. I'm going to ask you 5 questions. You try to give me an answer off the top of your head.
I am so excited. I am very worried that I might curse at you, but I'm going to try not to.
Okay. So here we go. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Yeah, absolutely.
Go-to home defense gun.
50 cal Desert Eagle.
Go-to EDC.
I am currently carrying an HKV P9.
Are aliens real?
Yes, absolutely. They admitted this.
If you could go back in time and change history, would you?
No.
There we go. You're the fastest to do this, too.
These are easy questions. Come on, man. Do people like normally elaborate, or do they think too long on this?
We've gotten a few that have just elaborated way too long into it.
Oh, yeah. These are simple questions. I think largely, like, the population of the world cannot handle a yes or no question more often than not.
Agreed. Do you want harder questions?
Send them. Let's go. Let's go. Come on. What's the meaning of life? What's the longest word in the English language, both in Latin and regular English language?
Meaning of life is 27.
I thought it was 42.
That too.
Okay. Do you know the longest word?
Isn't it supercalifragilisticexpialidocious?
That's like a made up Disney word, though. Does that count?
It's a word.
I would say yes. I think they've probably trademarked it. We probably owe them money now.
They probably have.
House of Mouse is coming after us.
Oh, they're coming. It's anti-disestablishmentarianism.
Okay.
And the longest, if you include like medical things, it's pneumonic ultramicroscopic seal called volcanoconiosis, which is black lung disease.
I feel like we need the more you know.
The more you know.
This is what happens when you have this ridiculous kind of brain and you just hold on to stuff that doesn't matter.
I thought I was bad. She makes fun.
Dude, it's bad.
I was earlier today. We were sitting here and we had chicken noodle soup for lunch, and I was singing the chicken noodle soup song
and a soda on the side.
Yes. And she's like, where in the back of your brain did that come from?
It was
What do you mean? You say chicken noodle soup. The following words should be and a soda on the side.
Yeah.
It was so not connected to the conversation that we were having.
It doesn't matter. It's the right thing to say.
It caught me off guard. I was like, what?
Thank you. I'm validated.
Chicken noodle soup. Chicken noodle soup with a soda on the side. Come on now.
And there's a dance and everything.
Yeah, there's a whole thing.
I'm aware.
I need your hood pass. Give me your hood pass.
I'm aware that it exists.
You don't deserve it anymore.
I understand that it exists. It was like a total break in the conversation, and it was a total squirrel moment. And I had to ask if he was okay because it just broke my brain a little bit. The jump. We were having a serious conversation, and then nope. So,
the question, John, is what kind of soda?
Dr. Pepper.
What?
It's always
Who
Dr.
are you? We're not friends anymore. Dr. Pepper. That's the one you pick.
It's always Dr. Pepper.
It's Sprite or ginger ale, you terrorist.
I will die on the hill that Dr. Pepper is the superior soda.
I mean, he's not wrong. If I'm sick, it is Sprite or Dr. Pepper. Or not Dr. Pepper.
The answer is still Dr. Pepper.
Yeah, he can't let it go. His brain is just locked on Dr. Pepper.
Sponsor us, please.
Right? Can you imagine?
So I want to kind of jump into this conversation that I think is so important. And you have done a really fantastic job about opening up a forum for people to kind of dive in, ask questions. It started out as, I don't even know how to say it.
It was just a panel.
It was a panel at another event. And then now it has turned into a whole weekend event called GunCon.
That's right.
And so kind of walk us through what was the deciding factor to even rent out a place and have a panel discussion and include real life audience members in those questions.
It came from a place of like, why is nobody else doing this? I had seen what Rooster Teeth used to do, and I think they called it RTX. I think that's what they called it. It was their own like video gaming kind of expo, and I had seen them doing a panel. I'm like, wait, we could totally do this. Why is nobody doing this in the gun space? And I was fortunate enough to have the contact information for some of the biggest at the time. And I believe the first one was in Louisville, maybe, I think. Whatever. The second one was Atlanta. I remember that because the second one we did in the actual NRA annual meeting convention. We did it in their facility with them, and that did not go well. So the following year we separated official, I started doing it again in other facilities, but it came from a spot of the community needs this. I wanted to see it. And I think the creators really enjoyed it. And that's why they keep coming back year after year.
I mean, I've enjoyed every chance I've gotten to either watch the panels or watch them or be there live. I mean, it's fantastic what you're doing, and it gives the general audience. And again, I'm blessed. I've known you for so long now.
Forever.
It's been forever. The first time I met John, he doesn't remember. He claims he doesn't remember the story. I remember the story vividly. John licked me on the face the first time we met.
Never happened, and you're a dirty liar.
It did happen.
It didn't. That's not
I
true.
don't know what it says about you that you're bragging that a
Yeah.
grown man licked your face.
Listen,
but if
it's
that's
just
what
not-
you
first of
want
all,
on the internet,
That's not something I would do. I'm never going to lick another dude's face.
It
It's
was
not
the
happening.
weirdest thing. That's why I remember it so vividly.
John, I know you really want that to have happened.
I do. But,
You want that bragging right? It didn't. You're a dirty liar, and I will stand tall on that.
but I have pictures of young. I shared them with you the last time we saw each other. I found pictures of young John and me, or younger John with the shorter beard.
Yes.
Way back in the day, it was me, Sean with no beard, and you with the shorter beard. It was way back in the day. But
Wow.
the thing with GunCon, and I went on that weird tangent for a second. But the thing with GunCon, what I found really amazing, and again, like I said, I've been blessed because we've been friends for so long, is that GunCon gave the average YouTube viewer, the guys who aren't in this industry, who don't have that friendships with a lot of the creators, a chance to actually talk to them. And I applaud you for that, because you were the first to bring that to the forefront for people to be able to talk and ask the questions maybe they didn't have the confidence to ask in the comment section.
Yeah. I mean, that was a big part of it. Making sure that the connection, like, remove the keyboard, right? Change the keyboard to a handshake. Change the keyboard to an opportunity to have a face-to-face conversation with somebody you watch regularly, like Mr. Guns and Gear or Military Arms Channel, or, you know, We Like Shooting. Any of these guys, you know, Mr. Guns and Gear. I sat down in Knoxville after Goals. Was sharing a house with Sean Heron and Mr. Guns and Gear. And the three of us went, oh crap, we've been doing this the longest together. Like, those two guys were at the very first TGC panel in that hotel years ago and have done every single one since. And we sort of reflected on it and how amazing that is, that we've all been able to support each other in that way and grow the community in that way.
Now there's, and again, that's amazing. I wanted to bring this up real quick.
Oh boy.
At Goal, you brought up Goals, so I'm bringing up Goals. I asked you, or Kailey and I asked you as a GOA, as an organization, to do a 5-minute speech, which you normally don't do a speech by yourself. You're normally on the panel. What was that like for you to be able to give your voice? Which, again, amazing speech, by the way. If you haven't listened to the speech, you can either go to our Rumble and scroll through it and find a speech, or you can go to John's YouTube. He's got it up on TGC. I believe that speech is up on your YouTube channel, correct?
Yeah, I don't remember. I think I said it's titled like my speech to thousands of gun owners or something like that.
But what was that like for you to give a speech to actually address not in a video, but address a whole crowd of people like that?
It was super weird. Super weird. I didn't prepare at all, by the way. Zero prep, because I knew, like, if I didn't have a prompter, like, I normally script all of the news and all of these things. Even the jokes are scripted, if you can believe that. Sometimes, you know, most of the time they're scripted. So it was definitely, it's a change of pace for me, but it was an opportunity to actually solo on stage. Normally, when I'm on stage, I'm with some friends, I'm with other creators, and it was a good opportunity to have that sort of back and forth and speak on something that I felt very strongly about, and I still feel very strongly about, which is, you know, hopefully everybody, you know, we're recording this before the election, but hopefully everybody got out there and voted in favor of the Second Amendment, which is kind of the core of that speech. But
you give this speech at Goals. It's very impactful for, I think, a lot of people, because, you know, we want to believe that gun owners are always proactive, that we're never reactionary, and that if we are reactionary, we're never apathetic. And the reality is, not every gun owner is as proactive as we would want, and not every gun owners is even as reactive as we would want. But I think the harder part is getting those people that would prefer to have their head buried in the sand and would prefer to be apathetic, to actually get them to engage in the culture war, to engage in the political fight for the preservation and restoration of our rights. And it doesn't matter if you're listening to this after the election. We're filming this right before the election or not. But there will always be challenges regardless of who is in office. There will always be challenges regardless of who is on your school board or your county commission. But it's our job as advocates to be as proactive as humanly possible. And I always kind of give this example because so many people believe and want to believe that the courts will just fix everything. But it is far easier to stop a bad bill before it gets signed, before it gets passed, than it is to wait until the end and then try to fight it. And that goes the same for an election season, and that goes for the same for even getting bills sponsored. I can't tell you how many times, we at GOA will receive an email. I can't believe that you guys sent out an alert out on, the Shush Act that wants to remove suppressors from the NFA. This isn't going to get signed by Biden. Sure. But we have to get people on the record now. We have to get things introduced now. We have to get the sponsors prepared and on record, because eventually, hopefully, there will be somebody who will sign it. But if you're having to start from zero versus starting from a place of preparedness, it's a different fight. And especially when you're dealing with a House of Representatives that has an election every 2 years, you have to hold the legislators accountable, and getting them on record early and often is how we eventually will find any level of success there. You can't simply rely on the courts to fix everything. If that was the case, then, the NFA and these things wouldn't have been tyrannical for almost 100 years now. And so, sorry, that was a little bit soapboxy, which is our next segment. But, but I think part of your speech is so impactful for that reason, is you were talking to gun owners broadly and not just those who are, the super hardcore activists, but anyone that fits in any of those groups. And it was a true call to action for everyone to rise to the occasion.
I think the thing that a lot of us get wrong is this idea that all gun owners are enthusiasts. That's never been the case. So we have to look beyond our enthusiast echo chamber and try to communicate and try to activate and connect with the people that are just gun owners. Like your group is called Gun Owners of America, not Gun Enthusiasts of America, right? These are very different types of people. And it's important that we remind the casuals out there that the Second Amendment does matter, and you should be voting for people that support it. And that's not just in the presidential election. That's at the state level, at the local level, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's very important for us to remember that the Second Amendment is the backer for every other amendment. And people just forget, and we just need to push and remind people. That's our job as enthusiasts.
I think you just said that very well, that a lot of people address, and a lot of people on the internet who consume a ton of firearms content are the enthusiasts. And we forget about the first-time gun owners, or the gun owners who bought their guns during COVID, or the people who are just getting into this, or the hunters. It's not, the average gun owner is not you or I, because we are so ingrained into this that this is now just more than just owning guns. It's a hobby. This is a way of life. This is just an everyday thing that we talk about. And I that's a very good point. Really well said on we have to go past our echo chamber and go into the community as a whole.
Yeah. I mean, my job is to speak to the echo chamber. The 9 times out of 10, the regular passerby gun guy is probably not going to latch on to the things that I'm doing in my videos because it's meant for enthusiasts. So when we have the opportunity to reach those other people and have those conversations and spread that message in a larger way, we should.
What, from a content creation standpoint, which is obviously your lane, how do you build an on-ramp to gain more of an audience? Because how do you take somebody from I just bought my first gun to that enthusiast level? And how are ways that you've been able to grow your audience and your brand?
I think humor has something to do with that. And I also think trying to remain true to the struggles that, some of the less enthusiastic people, I don't really know, the people that are newer to it, I think I try to take the time to explain things that may be normal to you and I, the cost, the production, how things are done, etc. I try to take some time to do that and give context to more complicated situations, and add some humor in there, which sort of breaks the walls down. I try to do that so that if somebody is as I put it, casual, perhaps they'll get involved or want to know more or whatever. I think really that's how I'm trying to keep things entertaining enough while still giving the legit news to try and reach a larger audience. Try being the key word in today's environment.
I wanted to touch on this real quick. A lot of content creators are hesitant to do what you do. And by that, I mean, you speak the truth because they're worried of angering the company. Why have you chosen, that path and have you angered a company enough to say, no, we don't want to work with? And I know the answer to this, but why have you chosen that path? Because a lot of content creators, I don't want to sully that, or I don't want to go that far. Why have you chosen to do what you do? And it works. It's good. Fantastic.
I don't know when this personality trait developed. I have a very thin filter, perhaps is the way to put it. I do know how to censor myself in certain ways and how to pull it back and adjust. Like normally I would be cursing my face off laughing about this topic, but the key is that the version of what I'm putting out on the internet is as close to me, like the real version of me. It's as close as I can possibly get it while still maintaining some level of entertainment, because the pauses and all that thing, those typically get edited out. But it's trying to be me. This is how I actually feel. And these are my actual opinions. Most of the time, I'm just letting it rip because I have always been told through, the education of content creation, I've always seen things that say you need to be your authentic self. And I have sort of wavered here and there and said things that I maybe didn't 100% think. And over the last, I would say 2 to 3 years, I've really dialed into saying exactly what I really think. And I think the audience really appreciates the honesty. And whether I piss a company off or not matters zero to me. Because if I say, if I give an opinion on a given product and they take that personally, there's not much I can do about that because that's an emotional reaction 9 times out of 10. I've had people threaten to sue me. I've had people, swear they're going to get me in trouble with YouTube or have my video taken down or whatever. All kinds of nonsense. That headrest safe guy, he swore that I had to take my video down because I didn't think his product was safe. And I still don't think it's safe to hold guns. Other stuff, sure. But using that for a gun safe is one of the most dangerous things that you can be doing. I see this thing all over the internet, but that's one of the more recent ones where a company legitimately got mad at me and said, you have to take this video down because it didn't work in favor of his marketing. And I said, you know what? No, I'm not going to do that for you because I don't owe you that. And I think the audience truly appreciates that sort of stance. And a lot of times I don't like to, have this like self-aggrandizing thing, but I try to stand in the way of that BS for the audience, on behalf of the audience.
No,
Does that make sense?
I mean, I've been on the other side of this with you, when we worked at Faxon, but we appreciate your honesty. I mean, Kurt and I appreciated it. It was true. It was thin. We knew what we had to fix. And that is, I think, a nuance that a lot of content creators are scared about being their true self for pissing off a company. But without your input, we don't know what to fix. You know what I mean?
I agree. It's saying yes to everything and being a yes man, I guess, is not helping anybody. You're not helping the audience. You're not helping the company. You're not helping anybody in this equation. So being comfortable with stating things that are maybe not as good or maybe not good at all, those things are fine. And we should be accepting of that. And most companies out there are grateful for the perspective. They love it because they want to know what can be better so that they can make it better and sell more. But I think a lot of content creators just forget about that. They want more free stuff, so they keep saying positive things. And I've got a wall of cool stuff that I have acquired. Some of it sucks. Some of these guns back here are not great, but they remind me to stay true to myself.
Absolutely. Well, it is just past the halfway point on this podcast, so it is time for our From the Soapbox segment. Outside of what you do on the gun side of things, you are also a overlander, and you have a whole channel dedicated to your van build, which just keeps getting cooler and cooler and more out of my budget. But
Me too.
But walk us through what it has been like kind of expanding into a sector of the YouTube arena that is a little less on the censored side, to say the least, and kind of compare and contrast and give us your hot takes on how that niche is kind of also surprisingly super pro-gun.
I mean, the fact that it is pro-gun shocked me. I assumed that a good portion of those people would not be favorable to my career path. So when I was walking around one of the first events that I went to, I'm like tiptoeing around like, hey, I make content for a living. And now I'm like, yeah, I make gun content for a living. I work in the firearms industry. And I just say that now. And it's surprising how many people are favorable for it. Maybe not everybody carries, but there's a lot of those folks that carry and are freedom minded, I guess is one way to put it. I think the core of self-reliance and what is almost prepping in certain ways is very strong in the off-road and overlanding community. I don't think I would call myself an overlander yet because my van has only been off-road at Sean's range at 100 miles an hour. Not really. I haven't gone off-road quite often, but that is the plan, and that's what I would like to do. And I would like to bring those people into our community and show them that it's not one-sided. Like, one of the things that I am attempting to do with GunCon is bring more of those folks on board and just have them at the event, because there is a blend and there is a crossover. And the same thing goes with the vans and RVs and all those sorts of things. There's a lot of Americans out there that like firearms or are interested in firearms. And if I can bridge the gap, if I can be the guy, sure. Yeah, I'm in.
That's awesome. I know that there are some certain challenges. I mean, we talk a lot at GOA about the need for concealed carry reciprocity, and eventually, we want to see a full restoration of the Second Amendment, which means constitutional carry in all 50 states. And we have goals of not being needed anymore because the Second Amendment is just the Second Amendment. We probably won't see that in my lifetime, but that's our core philosophy. Have you had any conversations, especially, I know, one of the kind of big overlanding hot spots is like Lake Tahoe and the Rubicon Trails. That is in probably one of the most restricted areas as far as gun laws go. When you're talking to this overlanding community and they find out about the guns, what are the questions that they're asking? What are the things that they find to be the biggest nuisances?
It's funny. Most of the time when it comes up, there are no questions. It usually just goes, "Oh, cool. Here, come look at my thing that I have in my vehicle." Like, that's it. It's usually very like, yes. And I think the biggest challenges with traveling, I travel quite a bit. You guys travel quite a bit, is knowing what is legal and where. I think that's one of the most difficult things that we all face. A lot of people have questions about traveling with firearms. How are we supposed to store it? There's a lot of assumptions about what is or is not legal. I just went through the state of New Jersey yesterday, and I was completely disarmed because New Jersey is, I can't think of a non-curse word thing to say about it. It's bad. There we go. It's bad. We'll stick with that. I think, understanding the nuance of the state to state laws is very difficult. I have a big sticking point with national reciprocity, because the idea of national reciprocity means that the federal government has control as opposed to the states. And I have a big problem with the feds taking entire control. And, I agree with the constitutional carry everywhere. I agree with that. I struggle with giving the feds control of our gun rights in that way. So I don't know. There's nuance to it. It's a states' rights versus federal government rights issue. And for me, I just want all the states to pull their heads out of their rear ends and just sort of accept licenses or laws of other states. Like, you can carry here as you carry in your own home state. Yeah. That would be cool. I think that would be fair. However, we don't do that. That's why I have the Pennsylvania license to carry a firearm. It is not a concealed weapons permit, as a lot of people say. It's a license to carry a firearm. And I also have a Utah permit, which is a different thing because there's a training requirement. Pennsylvania does not have that. So we have to navigate all of these things in terms of what's legal where, how is it legal, how are we traveling, do we have safe passage laws on our side, how long are we in a state, where are we at, am I going to get caught, things like that, because it's complicated. Traveling across the U.S. with a firearm is
ultimately
complicated.
You have the 27 words penned by our founders, and it's shall not be infringed, which is why it is so refreshing that in probably one of the weirdest timelines that we're in history, we're still seeing positive restorations happening at the state level with constitutional carry.
It's wild. If you asked me 5 years ago if we were going to see this amount of constitutional carry states, I would have said, hell no, it's not going to happen. No way in heck. No way are we getting that many states on board for that. But I have been shocked that one after another.
Yes, and I think it all comes down to grassroots advocacy. I mean, if we go back to 2021 when Virginia did all of that mass gun control, and we had probably one of the largest rallies with VCDL and the annual lobby day that we've been a part of, I think, since its inception. And you had the Second Amendment sanctuary ordinance is take off. That led to constitutional carry, which has led to Second Amendment preservation acts. All of those things are happening at the grassroots level, and it's, you know, so exciting to see, because the states are not supposed to be creating their own gun control that goes against our constitutional rights to begin with. And just as the federal government is not supposed to be creating new laws that go against our Second Amendment, and just for clarification's sake, the bloated bureaucracy that has no elected officials is not supposed to be going against our constitutionally protected rights either. If you leave anything out,
shout out to the ATF. What's up, you terrorists?
Just in case anyone was clear, not clear on what I was saying, it's you're not supposed to infringe upon a constitutionally protected right because it is a constitutionally protected right.
Well, he brought up safe passage laws. You don't understand how butt puckering it is when you have a U-Haul full of guns going through Illinois. Not like I've ever done that once or twice, but
I definitely did not have a cargo van full of ammunition going to GunCon one year through Illinois. That didn't happen.
Like the amount of pucker where you're like, okay, I got to pee in Indiana and then I got to hold it till I hit Missouri. Yeah. Just it's insane. It just drives me nuts.
That's accurate, by the way. Where are we stopping for fuel? Let's stop here so that we don't have to stop in Illinois.
But
it's real.
Yeah, I mean it just drives me nuts on the safe passage laws and making sure that the laws from state to state. Even we travel a ton, but we went to Sean's event last year, Colorado Range Day, and even the information I was getting about that, like what magazines I could bring with me, was very confused. I get there and Sean's like, oh yeah, you could have had whatever you wanted, it's fine. But then I'm getting information from other people who are like, no, you don't. No, you gotta stick to their laws. So just no, it's just insane.
It's all over the place, dude.
So not to derail from that so much.
Not to derail, but you're going to derail.
Think that is one of the overwhelming features of how convoluted our laws have gotten to new gun owners, where if you're coming into this space and thankfully, millions of people are becoming gun owners and they're willing to brave the craziness of these laws. But it is just that. It's having to learn and relearn and constantly look up. Do I have reciprocity? Do I need to look at getting a Utah out of state permit? Do I need to look at getting a New York out of state permit, which we just had to sue the state of New York in order to even get that as an option? Do you need a Connecticut? And so it's a weird game where your wallet starts expanding because you're trying to collect states like Pokemon, where you're trying to catch them all. And sorry, I can't believe I said that. Like,
no, that's fine.
Why are you sorry for that? That was a great analogy.
Because both of you all, your face reaction to me saying anything about Pokemon, I was just like, well, I'm gonna go crawl under this table now. But
I thought it was funny.
It's that amount of work and that amount of effort that gun owners have to go through, just to be able to have their constitutional rights is ridiculous.
Well, you say that. It's funny. In Ohio, it used to be like you could get a Florida permit and be fine. Then Ohio changed the law. You have to have, if you're an Ohio resident, you have to have an Ohio permit. You can't have an out-of-state permit and carry in Ohio if you're a resident. It's so dumb how each state has their own laws just pertaining to that. And then you got to go, okay, well, I've got this permit. Okay, well, now I got to go get another permit just to make sure I get this state because I got to travel to this state. I want to have something. We went to Chicago. I brought a stabby Sharpie because that's the only thing I could carry in Chicago. I get to DC. You're like, no knives. I'm like, what do you mean? I always carry a knife. You're like, no, put it away. It's so insane on just being able to protect yourself in some of these places. Mind you, they also have the highest crime rate and gun violence.
Yeah. Even more to that point, like Tennessee, which is considered a very pro-gun state by most. You have I don't like to call ours our constitutional carry because we got a lot of work to do. It's getting better. Still got a lot of work to do, but we have permitless carry. Then we have our carry permit, and then we have our enhanced carry permit, and then you have a lifetime carry permit. So you've got like 4 different options just out of the gate. And so, if we want to put our minds to, okay, well, how do we build an on-ramp for our community members to be a part of the Second Amendment community? How do we bring the education to them in a digestible way? There are so many aspects that can be overwhelming to them. And so it's being that resource for people to ask questions. And it is, seeing the need and meeting it, and then advocating the best that we can as often as we can to stop having a spaghetti bowl of random gun laws that make no sense, and just have a process that is, hey, this is the Constitution and we're going to follow it.
So you're saying Tennessee's like Super Smash Brothers? You have to choose your character?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to...
It's true.
I'm going to derail this for a second. Yes. So John, every week you report on the Knicks numbers, almost every week for the every month. I'm sorry.
It's every month.
Every month
they don't come out.
You report on the Knicks numbers. You more than most content creators have a good feel for the Knicks numbers and what's coming out. So what are we seeing in the last 4 years from historic highs to where we're leveling out to about what we're normally at, and how the gun industry is responding to that?
I mean, the gun industry is doing a piss poor job of it, as per usual, in terms of like responding with new and interesting products. It's a lot of, hey, we came out with something somebody else released a few years ago. Yay. The current average per month in terms of national instant check, background check numbers is 2.25 million across this year, 2024. I have that on top of head because we talked about it like last week or the week prior. The trend is that we are way up from pre-pandemic numbers. We're way up. However, the industry has sort of absorbed a lot more people. We don't know what the new trends are going to be. And I think a lot of companies are just kind of throwing stuff at a wall, hoping it works. I haven't seen anything that is groundbreaking in a very long time. I've seen a lot of reintroductions of old concepts, but I haven't seen anything that is like, wow, that's really cool, which is a shame. And I think that the challenge is when these new concepts come out, a company will charge $3,000 for a gun. And the economy just does not allow for such a thing. It doesn't. And half the time when they do that, when they have this like mildly interesting idea, it's not good enough. It doesn't work right, or it's half baked. We haven't seen a big gun company do anything truly innovative in a long time.
I'm glad you said that, because we were talking to Jeremy Dedman earlier today about this. And Jeremy's very vocal about this topic in particular.
Jeremy is one of my oldest friends in the industry. We met in like 2013.
So we're talking about like if something innovative comes out, you normally see it in the basement of SHOT Show, and then it disappears because there's not enough capital to go. And the best, and I wouldn't say this is innovative, but the best example I have of this is Hudson. Hudson was in the basement of SHOT Show. They popped up. They became the rage for 2 years and then gone. And the other thing that I see is when people do step outside of the box, I wouldn't call it innovative, but step outside of the box. And a good example of that is the Taurus Curve. It was awfully executed, but it was stepping outside of the box. They get ridiculed.
Sure. Agreed.
So do you think the industry is too worried about being ridiculed to innovate, or are they just not innovating?
I think the industry is very good at not listening. That's what I think. I think in large part, brands are caught up in their own nonsense and do not do a good job of truly listening to what people want. They will think that like the engineers at a given company will come up with an idea, and oftentimes it'll take years for that to cross the finish line. And by the time it crosses the finish line, it's an idea from 5 years ago, and it's just not good enough for the current market. I think most companies are too bloated, too big, and they don't move quick enough on cool ideas or novel concepts, and they just don't listen to what people want. And then that means the consumer is left going, this is boring. I want something else. One of the more interesting products that has come out in really recent years is the Genesis shotgun. It's a shotgun, a 12 gauge shotgun upper that goes on an AR-10 lower. And they've done a great job making a product that's actually innovative, actually interesting. But that's one of, 10,000 new things that has come out. I don't know if that's an accurate number, but that's one thing. It can't sustain the industry.
So the same trend I'm seeing that you're probably seeing is it's a lot of Me Too, like lever guns, for example. Me Too. I now have a lever gun. Or it's let's regurgitate this thing and change what it looks like.
Let's make a new version of the P365. Let's make a full-size micro compact, which makes zero sense. Makes zero sense, but that's the thing that's happening.
I'm glad you brought up.
That's what's coming out.
I don't know. We had an argument at TriggerCon. What is a micro compact? Because everyone's now using that term in like the new Taurus single stack 22. That is considered, they're calling that a micro compact. What is a micro compact? We make up these terms, but nobody can define what a micro compact is, which is funny.
I think it's just a term that stuck.
Yeah.
It used to be subcompact. That's what we called it because compact wasn't good enough. So we had subcompact and now we have microcompact. And I think microcompact has come to be a small double stack carry gun. Like that's the concept it's 10 rounds a 9 with a flush fit mag. That's kind of the standard that people are using right now. And that's generally speaking a micro compact with like a 3-inch barrel, something like that. That's what people are calling a micro compact. I don't know what the hell Taurus is thinking with a single stack. Like that's not like, I don't know what that is. It's probably junk. I don't know. I have not shot it. Don't have any interest in shooting it, but I think it's just this word that people have stuck to. It's a marketing thing because these guns have gotten more slim, right? So it's not quite as wide as a subcompact, but rather than calling it slim, because that word didn't do well with consumers, didn't matter. We've now just slapped it on. And now what's really interesting is we were going smaller. We were in this race to go small. And then now we've got literal full-size 17-round, very slim guns built off of these micro-compact guns. And it's not just SIG, it's a bunch of other companies doing this concept. And it's one of the weirdest things I've seen. I remember when we had slim, like large guns that were slim, you could sell those and just call them
Well,
slim.
it's the
But
same thing.
I guess that's not the case
we
anymore.
talked about, we saw this trend of everybody going to polymer, and now people want steel again. And then it was, now we want polymer again. It's just weird. The trends that the firearms industry goes through, either you're too late to the trend or you're just now becoming another Me Too product.
I think the problem is people are chasing the trend. They're not setting the trend. SIG did it. You know, the 320 did a great job of introducing the world to chassis based fire control groups. That's great. And then they continued it with the 365. That's great. And I would argue that Smith & Wesson did a very good thing with the Shield in terms of EDC guns. Small, reliable. It was single stack at first, but now it's not. They've pushed and they've set a trend. And now everybody's like just doubling on. I'm looking at a Me Too product, a 2011 style gun, because Staccato's annoying and copyrighted that. But I'm looking at one of those, and it's just not that good.
And I do want to ask this question because this is something that has, I guess, always bothered me. Granted, I'm coming from the minority or previous minority in the consumer being female. But my grandmother-in-law has arthritis, and the only guns that are in existence, at least that I know of, that I could even take her to go shoot, that would be possible for her to shoot, is the Shield EZ and the Tip Up from EAA. Do you think that they are, instead of meeting real needs of customers, just choosing to ignore different groups? Because like I have a massive hatred for the whole shrink it and pink it movement. I've gone on many rants. I won't bore everyone with another one, but it was very frustrating to me as we saw some crime go up in the area that she lives in. Only being able to give her two real options. And I think a lot of people find themselves in situations where a family member has maybe some limited mobility and there is no innovation in that sector, in that space. And I'm just curious if you have a take on why.
I think people are ignoring it, honestly, largely. The other gun you could have her look at is the Equalizer. That's a double stack version of the EZ. That's basically the same thing, and it is pretty good. And that is the same gun that I crapped on and then walked back. I think a lot of people just don't cater to that audience, and I don't know why. I don't have a good reason why, but I think they just ignored it. It's largely a money thing. Oftentimes, like, the market's not big enough to make that kind of gun. But I'll be honest, I like easy to control guns and easy to manipulate guns. I like that. The problem is a lot of times we get them in 22 or 380 or something. Like, no, can we make, if we can make a big, cool, light recoiling gun in some silly, like a 10 mil or a 45, I'm sure we can do it in a smaller cartridge or a smaller frame gun, an easier to manipulate gun. But we don't put the money into that. It goes into things like guns that fold up for no effing reason. Like we have all these folding guns and nobody's folding them ever. Like, look, it folds, and then you have to unfold it to shoot it. What? What's that for? I don't know. Do you know what that's for? Why? Oh, we'll put it in the pack when we go out in the field we don't go to. Oh, sure.
No, I think the big reason why we don't see that, and the only reason why I'm bringing this up, because there's like 3 of them in the background in John's studio, is revolvers. People go, oh, they have arthritis, they can't wreck a slide, give them a revolver. It used to be like females, it was always give them a J-frame. Always give them a J-frame.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that kicks.
Give him a gun with a 12-pound
hell.
trigger. What?
You're not wrong.
Yeah, I think that's an underserved market. I think that's an underserved market for sure.
It is an underserved market, but it's very frustrating because it's the same people who is like, well, the market's not big enough for us to innovate in that area. And is it like, well, if you build it, they will come. Like you have to, at some point, you can't be like, well, you need to come to us and then prove that you're a big enough market and then we'll cater to you. It's like, well, if you have limited mobility, you have to have the option for us to even purchase your product.
Yeah.
And then you can bring people to it. You can't put the cart before the horse.
So what you're saying is we need to build a gun range in a cornfield and hope the ghost of John Moses Browning walks out and gives us innovation.
I think that's at Pewview's house.
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
It is. I've been there. It's in a cornfield. Moses
Browning comes out and he's just like, "You've built it." Yes.
He just pats Nick on the back.
There's a video somewhere here.
Good job.
Yeah. But
him and his sweet mustache.
You're absolutely right. And we see it all the time. It's underserved market, or you go up to, and I've been in the shoes of the people who have this happen to, but people will come up to you and be like, "Why don't you do this?" And I go, "Cool, get you and 10,000 of your friends to cut together and we'll do this." I mean, most of the time it's like, "Can you build an AR and 270-aught Roberts?" And I'm like, "No, you and 3 of your friends are the ones who want to buy it." But that is an underserved.
Why don't they have ammo for this?
But it's just...
That's the follow-on question. 257 Roberts? What do you mean you don't have it in stock?
Not a real gun shop.
Get them, Greta.
Where's the drama llama when we need them? But yeah, it's a weird. You're absolutely right. Underserved markets, but all the time people are like, "You should do this or you should do that." And I've come back from shows, and my favorite one that I wanted to do, Kurt was on board. Kurt was on board with this, but I couldn't get the rest of the engineers on board. Came back from a show the one time, and I'm like, "We're doing aftermarket high point barrels," and they're like, "You're an idiot." I'm like, "No, they'll cost more than the gun, and it's fantastic." But it's the same thing. All these companies that go to the show, people walk up to them and go, "You should do this or you should do that."
Yeah, but I think that there's a difference here, okay? And I am going to make this distinction.
Yes.
And then I'll leave the topic alone. But there is a difference between listening to a section of the market that is being A, ignored, or B, just avoided, and going after these super niche trends. And the reason that I say this is this. I am small. Very.
Are you?
I don't even wear adult gloves.
I didn't notice.
I am a small person. And it is very rare that I find in an industry I love things that are comfortable for me. That I'm like, I'll spend money on that. Take my money. In fact, take all of it. You can have it. I want XYZ. But I'm not the only person that fits that category. I know because I know the people I take to the range for the first time. And most of them are smaller people like me because they see and they're like, "Oh, okay, so you shoot. Well, you found some way to make it comfortable. This is what I was told to buy." And you're like, "Why? Who hurt you? Like why would they tell you to get that? That's going to be awful." And it's because they look at the size of the gun and they're like, "Oh, small person, small hands. This is what you want," versus something that you can control. Yeah, it's amazing how.
My
There you
favorite,
go, little
my
lady.
favorite was when I was working at the gun store. Was my neighbor, who's a cop, told me to get a Glock 23 or a Glock 27 or a 40 cal or a J frame revolver.
Ooh, that's
And
worse.
then you talk to them, and I'm like, no, you don't want any of those. Nobody wants those.
I was told to get
Problem
a Glock
solver.
27 40 millimeter.
40 millimeter.
No, the 40 mil. It's that big.
That's the one.
But
Yeah,
I just
40 millimeter. That's the one.
Yeah.
All right, I got a story for you about a gun store real quick. I started in a gun store in 2012 in Amish country. First gun store I ever worked in. One of the first times I was alone after like training in the shop, I was asked by an Amishman for sparklers. What do you think that was?
Dragon's breath.
What product was he looking for? I'll give you 3
Dragon's
seconds.
breath.
1, 2,
What?
nothing. Primers. He was looking for shotgun primers, 209 shotgun primers. He goes, "What for sparklers you got?" And I went, "Do what? It's November. What are you looking for?" It was like, I don't know. It was not fireworks time. And he asked for sparklers. He wanted 209 shotgun primers. That's all I had. I just had to tell you that.
John, we appreciate you coming on the show today. It is great, as always, to see your bearded face and smiling bearded face at that. Let the people know where they can find you, what's coming up, all that fun stuff.
The Gun Collective, just punch that in somewhere and you'll probably find me shouting about something. That's it.
No,
Yeah.
I
Thank you for having me, by the way. I think this was a lot of fun.
appreciate you being on.
I love
in
teasing you
true
guys.
fashion. We're just going to end on